Should you liquidate your 401k in times of financial crisis? Or if you have a home to sell, should you do that instead? I'm Jonathan Ginsberg. I'm an Atlanta bankruptcy attorney. And recently I was speaking to a gentleman, very worried gentleman, about debt issues. And the choice really came down for him to either selling his house or liquidating his 401k. And when he originally called me, he wanted to talk about filing Chapter 7. And I made the decision after talking to him that Chapter 7 was probably not a good idea. First of all, he had what he told me was about $40,000 of equity in his house. It turns out his house was titled in his name alone. His wife was not on the title or on the mortgage, so arguably she might have an equitable interest in that property, but I wasn't so sure we could exempt all the $40,000 of equity, he said. And there may be an argument that we could, but again, that would be a fight, and you don't want to get involved in bankruptcy litigation. Second thing was this gentleman had been working and earning six figures for several years, made good money working for big companies, and he got terminated, lost his job about 6 or 7 months ago, and decided to start his own business, his own personal kind of consulting business. And the issue I had with that was that if you file bankruptcy and the trustees look at your earning history and they see that you have had a really solid earning history, making six figures a year for a number of years, and now you decide you want to go into your own business, but you want to file bankruptcy because you're not making any money, the argument is it's called income suppression. The trustees would argue, and I've had this happen a couple of times, that you are basically intentionally not earning the money you could otherwise earn, so you would be without income. That means you could file Chapter 7 and liquidate your debt. My concern was the U.S. trustee would say, wait a minute, this gentleman has the capacity to go earn, let's say, even high five figures or maybe six figures, but he's choosing not to. He's choosing to start his own business. Unsecured creditors should not have to pay for that. So I didn't think it was a good idea for that that reason anyway. Another issue was his estimate of the house value. I looked on Zillow, and the value of the house was a good bit more than he thought, maybe about $10,000 or $15,000 more. And my experience is that Chapter 7 trustees will look at the Zillow value, and they'll use that instead of what you say. And even if you can show that your house needs a lot of repair, the bottom line is that it's they're going to look at the highest possible value, and they're going to try to argue that the house is worth more than you think. So if you're right at that for a couple, of course, you can exempt $21,500 of exemption for an individual for real estate, double that $43,000 for a married couple. But if you're right at that limit, whether you're individual or married, then you got to be careful, because the trustees in many cases are going to try to say, well, the house is worth actually more than that. And the last reason I thought Chapter 7 did not make sense for this gentleman was he had been using his credit cards to live on, and anytime there's a lot of recent credit card use prior to filing Chapter 7, that's not a good thing either. So for a lot of reasons, those are the ones that come to mind, I recommended that he not file bankruptcy. So I said, really, what I think you ought to do is, you've got some equity in your house, you should sell your house and live on that, and maybe try to get a job where you can earn decent money and forego the self-employment for right now. And I don't know what he's going to do, but his parting comment to me is, well, I've got several $100,000 in my 401k. I think I'm just going to liquidate that and use that to live on and try to build up my business. I think that's a terrible idea. My opinion is that 401k money is for your retirement. It's protected from income tax as it grows. If you do take it out early, you have an IRS penalty. So you're going to have I think it's a 10% penalty for money you pull out of a 401k early, and you can't put it back. Once it's taken out, it's out. And so given that people live a long time, I'd much rather see somebody sell a house. You can always get another house, live on that equity. In this case, $40,000, $50,000, could probably live for a year or so if you really watched it and try to get another job. That would be a much better decision. But this is an example Not blaming this gentleman, because I think I don't know what he's going to end up doing. I think I'm out of the picture at this point because bankruptcy is not really an option. But my point here is that if you have a situation where you can liquidate assets like a house or expensive car, that's a much better option in my view than going after your 401k. I can't think of a single reason that somebody would raid or liquidate or take money out of their 401k, even borrowing against it, because that money is growing tax-free. It's got a lot of real advantages to it. You can always get another house, always get another car. So in my view, if bankruptcy is not an option, and again, I think that the points I'm making in this video are two. One is that if you're going to file bankruptcy, there are a lot of reasons that the trustee can object. And if an attorney like me is saying to you, there's a lot of risk here, and yes, you could file, but you're going to be facing perhaps litigation, that's a big red flag. You do not want to go into bankruptcy litigation. It gets very, very expensive. And trustees, whether it's Chapter 7 trustees or U.S. trustees, they have an unlimited budget to fight you. So if your attorney says to you, this is going to be a real fight, it's going to involve litigation, that means $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 of litigation. You don't want to do it. The second thing would be if you're in a situation where you're in debt crisis and you've got money in a 401k you could go after, don't do it unless you absolutely have no choice to survive. You're much better off getting a job, even earning less than you're deserving to earn, and liquidating your house, your car. You can always find another place to live, always find another vehicle, but make going after that 401k your absolute last resort. So I thought you'd find this interesting about how I analyzed this gentleman's situation. I wish I could have helped him with bankruptcy, but it just wasn't meant to be. But I told him that it didn't make any sense, and he appreciated that. I just hope he makes the right decision and does not go after his 401k retirement plan in lieu of liquidating his house, which in my view is a much better option. Hope you found this helpful. If you did, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think my advice was good for this gentleman? Give this a thumbs up on YouTube and on Facebook if you thought it was helpful, and subscribe to my YouTube channel and like our Facebook page. I really appreciate that. And if I can be of assistance to you, my direct number here in Atlanta, 770-393-4985. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Hi, this is Jonathan, and I hope you found this video helpful. I'd like to invite you to download my free Debt Destroyer Survival Kit right now. I've packed my survival kit with answers to the questions I've heard from clients for over 25 years here in the Atlanta area. Inside the survival kit, you'll find clear, easy to understand answers to critical topics about how to solve debt problems once and for all, including how do I protect my stuff, my house, car, and personal property if I file for bankruptcy? Are there any legitimate alternatives to bankruptcy? Will I ever get credit again, and if so, when? What mistakes must I avoid to get the most benefit out of bankruptcy? You can claim your copy right now by visiting my atlanta-bankruptcy.com website. And you are always welcome to use the email form on my website to ask me anything about debt and personal bankruptcy in Atlanta. www.atlanta-bankruptcy.com. And as always, I wish you the best.